Good morning, dosto. Welcome to PrepPluse. Hoping you all are doing good. So, without any delay, let's start the discussion on the Hindu newspaper of July 19, 2025. इस डिस्कशन में दोस्तों हम उन एग्जाम रिलेवेंट आर्टिकल्स को डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे जो इम्पोर्टेंट है। कुछ आर्टिकल्स शायद एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से उतने इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, तो भी हम उन आर्टिकल्स में से कुछ फैक्ट्स और डेटा उठाएंगे जो एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इम्पोर्टेंट हो सकते हैं। तो शुरू करते हैं। सो द वेरी फर्स्ट आर्टिकल टॉक्स अबाउट US adds TRF to terror list for Pahalgam strike. Now this particular article is very important from geopolitical point of view, and it's also definitely important with respect to India-US relationships. So let's dig into the article. So the Resistance Front, that is TRF, declared a foreign terrorist organization and a specially designated global terrorist. So External Affairs Minister calls it an affirmation of India-US counter-terror cooperation. So endorsement of India's international counter-terror campaign, the United States has designated the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. The TRF, which is backed by Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba militant group, has claimed to be behind the deadly April 22nd terror attack that left 26 people dead in Pahalgam. Now, our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has described the move as a strong affirmation of India-US counter-terrorism cooperation. The External Affairs Ministry has added that India's cooperation with international partners will continue to ensure that terrorist organizations and their proxies are held accountable. Now, this was the deadliest attack on civilians in India since 2008 Mumbai attacks conducted by LTE. Now, TRF has also claimed responsibility for several other attacks against Indian security forces, including the most recently in 2024. Now, this particular declaration by US, it demonstrates the Trump's administration's commitment to protecting our national security interests, countering terrorism, and enforcing President Trump's call for justice for Pahalgam attack. Now, friends, coming to the next article, which says that judge challenges Supreme Court's probe ex-CJI's action in cash case. Now, the Allahabad High Court Judge Justice Yashwant Verma has said that Supreme Court's in-house inquiry process, which recommended his removal from office, is a parallel extra-constitutional mechanism designed for the judiciary to usurp Parliament's exclusive authority. So this is a direct hit on the separation of power, which is also a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Now, an in-house inquiry committee of 3 judges was constituted by the then Chief Justice of India, Sanjeev Khanna, which had confirmed that unaccounted cash was found in the gutted storeroom at Justice Verma's official residence after a blaze on March 14th and 15th this year. Just days before the Parliament's monsoon session is set to open, Justice Verma has resorted to challenging both the report and the Chief Justice Khanna's action in the Supreme Court in a rather unconventional move by a sitting High Court judge. Now, this in-house inquiry takes away the exclusive powers of the Parliament granted under Article 124 and 218 of the Constitution to remove judges through an address supported by a special majority after an inquiry under the Judges Inquiry Act 1968. Now, what Justice Verma is saying that the petition has been filed under an anonymous acronym XXX but described the petitioner as Allahabad High Court judge. The in-house procedure devised by Supreme Court has no legal sanction. This is what Justice Verma has said, and he claims that it was a threat to the separation of powers. Now, Justice Verma has urged the top court to declare the in-house procedure unconstitutional. Now, discussing further on this article, the petition also argued that the in-house inquiry procedure against sitting judges was also a threat to judicial independence, which is an essential part of the basic structure of the Constitution. The petition pointed out that the inquiry reached its conclusions merely on the basis of presumptions. There was not even a formal complaint about the discovery of cash. Neither was the alleged cash seized or Panchnama prepared. The whole series of events was based on certain photos and videos privately taken by some officials. To this, the government has reacted that the motion to remove judge is not related to the government. Now, the motion for removal against Allahabad High Court Judge Yashwant Verma was related not to the government but with Parliament and the members of the Parliament. This is what our Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal has said. Further said that the in-house committee set up by the then CJI had already submitted its report. If Justice Verma did not agree with the report and approach the Supreme Court or the High Court, it was his prerogative. The minister said that maintaining that Parliament had the right to remove a Supreme Court or a High Court judge. The support of at least 100 members in the Lok Sabha and 50 in the Rajya Sabha was needed to pass a motion for impeachment of a judge. Now, he further added that this was entirely a matter of the MPs. Some efforts had been made by them and the government was not in the picture. Now, the government is trying to push for a motion to remove Justice Verma in the Parliament's monsoon session, which is scheduled to start on July 21st. Now, the Business Advisory Committee, this particular committee is very important for different exams. Okay, so the Business Advisory Committee would meet on the first day of the session where the business of the House would be decided. Now, responding to a question on the implement of a uniform civil code across the country, the Law Minister said that Goa was the first state to implement the UCC, followed by Uttarakhand, and added that other states were also making efforts in this direction. This particular piece of information is a very important fact for different prelims kind of exams or where MCQs have been asked. Now, reading further, the next article says that EU imposes sanctions on refinery in Gujarat for Russia energy links. So the European Union has sanctioned a Gujarat-based refinery owned by Nayara Energy Limited as part of a fresh sanctions package which was announced to target Russia's energy sector. The announcement comes just as the US Congress debates tightening sanctions on purchase of Russian crude oil, with India, China and Brazil being named by US lawmakers as countries that would face penalties. Now, the new EU sanctions also include a lowering of the oil price cap, that is, the maximum price countries can pay for Russian oil while using shipping and insurance from the advanced economies of the G7 group of countries from $60 per barrel to $47.6 per barrel. Now, the sanctions also include an EU-wide import ban on refined petroleum products made from Russian crude oil and a full transaction ban on Nord Stream 1 and 2 natural gas pipelines that connect Russia and Germany. Friends, this piece of information is very important for prelims kind of exam where MCQs have been asked. Now, reading further into the article, it is said that full-fledged sanctions including travel bans, asset freezes, ban on providing resources will apply to refinery as per a statement from the European Union. Now, as part of enhanced banking sanctions, the number of banks sanctioned and the breadth of the sanctions is set to increase and will include a total transaction ban for the 45 Russian banks. So, the new oil price cap, which is set at 15% below the average market price of the Russian crude, while not adopted by the entire G7, was also adopted by the UK, that is United Kingdom. Now, to these particular sanctions, how India has reacted. So, India cautions against double standards on Russian oil. India said that it does not subscribe to any unilateral sanction measures. The External Affairs Ministry has said this in response to the European Union's announcing fresh punitive measures on Russian oil, especially on its energy trade. Now, the European Union has announced a new package of sanctions, as we have just seen that, which is specifically aimed at Russia over its war against Ukraine. It also named Gujarat-based Nayara Energy's Vadina refinery, in which Russian energy firm Rosneft has a major stake. Now, India is a responsible actor and it remains fully committed to its legal obligations. And India considers the provision of energy security a responsibility of paramount importance to meet the basic needs of its citizens. And India has said that we would stress that there should be no double standards, especially when it comes to energy trade. Now, coming to next article. From this article, we'll pick up some important information which is very important for exams. Now, the Kanwar Yatra, which is an annual journey of devotees of Shiva to fetch the holy water of Ganga and offer it in their local shrines during the month of Shravan or Sawan in the Hindu calendar, has witnessed a wonderful confluence of unity. Now, there is no distinction of caste, region or class, no difference of opinion on set. They go chanting Har Har Bam Bam. They walk 300 to 400 kilometers, then take water from there and put the kanwar on their shoulders and walk back in the same way with the same devotion. Another piece of information here is that our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has declared November 15, the birthday of Birsa Munda, as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, that is Tribal Pride Day. This decision was made by the Union Cabinet in November 2021 to remember the contribution of the tribal freedom fighters as part of the year-long celebration of the 75th anniversary of independence. Now, such a declaration would instill a sense of respect and recognition in tribal communities. Janjatiya Gaurav Divas is just a gesture of gratitude and a bridge of communication with them. Coming to the next article, which says that work on the first phase of jungle safari in the Aravallis to begin soon. So, Haryana Forest and Wildlife Minister has said that work on the first phase of the 10,000-acre jungle safari in the Aravallis would begin soon, adding that the project would be equipped with world-class facilities. He further said that the project would give a new identity to the National Capital Region in the direction of a green and sustainable environment. It would be developed in 4 phases. Of the total project area, 2,500 acres will be developed in the first phase. The project will play an important role in promoting green tourism as well as conservation of wildlife. With the aim of equipping the project with world-class facilities and adopting the best model in its construction, the team visited Vantara Jungle Safari in Jamnagar, Gujarat. Now, this particular visit has provided important support in understanding the technical, structural and conservation-based aspects of the project. The project, which is spread across Gurugram and Noor district of the state, a group of 37 retired Indian Forest Service officers had written a letter to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier this year demanding that the project be scrapped. They argued that the project aim was simply to increase tourist footfall and not conserve the mountain range. And there is one more concern over here, friends, that such a project might affect the local ecosystem. So such points should also be taken into consideration by the government. Now coming to the next article, which is related to agriculture. It says that agriculture needs more public spending, not just one umbrella scheme. What is this umbrella scheme? So the Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, a scheme approved by the Union Cabinet, is to implement through the convergence of 36 existing schemes across 11 departments. So this is the umbrella scheme. So this particular scheme, it seeks to address the disparities in productivity between states and even among districts within a state. Now, the center's pet schemes such as the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi and the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana as well as relevant state schemes are to be identified by the district Dhan Dhanya Samitis and will be subsumed in this particular umbrella scheme. The local partnership with the private sector will also be promoted under the proposed scheme, which will begin in October during the Rabi crop season. The scheme is to get an annual outlay of 24,000 crores for 6 years. This particular scheme is modeled on Niti Aayog's Aspirational District Program, and the center will identify 100 districts based on low productivity and cropping intensity and less credit disbursement. Now, it is expected that such a scheme would result in higher productivity, value addition in agriculture and allied sectors, local livelihood creation, leading to increased domestic production and self-reliance. Now, in the background of decreasing public spending on agriculture, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture, in the latest report on demands for grants, had observed a continuous decline from 3.53% in 2021-22 to 3.14% to 2.57% to 2.54% and finally to 2.51% in 2025-2026 of the allocation for agriculture as a percentage of total center plan outlay. Now, such an aggregation of all schemes under one umbrella suggests that the government wants uniformity in running the welfare, financial and technical schemes in the agriculture sector. It is keen to add states measures too in the new scheme. Now, one more aspect is that the public-private partnership should be for the larger good of self-reliance, particularly in the production of food grains, edible oil and pulses. Now, the progress area coverage under Kharif crops, which was released last week, it points to a decrease in the sowing of oilseeds and popular pulses. So, one more positive aspect of the scheme which is being thought is that it will promote national uniformity. It is welcome that the new scheme will function based on district plans that will be aligned to the national goals of crop diversification, conservation of water and soil health, self-sufficiency in agriculture and allied sectors. Now, under the scheme, the center will monitor 117 key indicators of progress on a monthly basis, but to make it more participatory, states, local self-governments, primary agriculture cooperative societies, agriculture universities and organizations of farmers and traders must be involved in this very process. Now, the next article is about Indian inequality and the World Bank claims. This article is very important because it is filled with a lot of data which can be used from any mains exam to write answers. So inequality is an important concern for the political economy of a democracy. However, the Indian inequality debate is often characterized by the selective use of data to make exaggerated claims that fuel misperceptions rather than result in a better understanding. Now, recently there was a World Bank report which says India Poverty and Equity Brief to April 2025. Now, it says that or it rather claims that India has almost eradicated extreme poverty. It has significantly reduced consumption inequality from 2011-12 in terms of consumption patterns of the population. Now, in terms of Gini coefficient, this particular coefficient is very important with respect to prelims exam. What is Gini coefficient? It is a measure of inequality. Now, the report says that without separating the consumption and income inequality based estimates, the report has placed India among the top 4 least unequal countries. Now, the World Bank claims about the Indian inequality are based on the official household consumption expenditure survey data for 2022-2023. Now, this data is collected using the modified mixed reference period method, which employs state-of-the-art statistical technique. The MMRP is considered as an improvement and alignment with international best best practices. This is what the World Bank has said. The World Bank has also adjusted the Indian data to account for some but not all government provided free goods and services. Now what it has found out that during 2011-12 and 2022-23, India registered a major decline in consumption inequality. In this period, the consumption-based Gini coefficient has dropped from 28.8 to 25.5. Now, critics of this particular report argued that the World Bank has underestimated the inequality as the HCES data does not capture consumption by the rich. But this particular limitation it applies to all survey data in all the countries. And it is also said that we should not confuse consumption inequality with income inequality. The decrease in India's consumption inequality is substantial and indisputable. Now, the HCES data show that the country's consumption basket is healthier today than ever. Between 2012 to 2023, the per capita availability of milk and eggs has increased by 45% and 63% respectively. Very important data. Now, the availability of fruits, vegetables and protein products has increased. The share of cereals in the food bill as well as calorie intake has decreased, while that of healthier products has increased for all strata. Now, all this improves the diet for the 95% rather than the richest groups whose consumption already matches the best in the world. Now, the dietary intake improvements are most striking for the bottom 20% of the households in rural and urban areas both. Even if we ignore the free food and cash transfer received by these groups, the share of rural households consuming fresh fruits has increased from 63.8% in 2011-12 to 90% in 2023. Now, the report says that the extreme poverty has been almost eradicated. Whether we use the Rangarajan or Tendulkar or the multi-dimensional poverty index of Niti Aayog, poverty has declined significantly. Now, based on the international poverty line of $3 between 2011-2023, India has pulled around 27 crore people out of extreme poverty. Now, there is significant increase in ownership rates of Pakka homes and paved roads in rural areas over the last 10 years, owing to Pradhan Mantri Gramin Awas Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Among the poorest 20% of households, more than 40% own a vehicle today, compared to just 6% in 2011-12. Now, what is the importance of this particular data? That this enables the rural worker to work part-time in nearby cities without having to migrate. Reading further into the article, so, it is important to examine the income inequality separately from consumption inequality, but there is no official income survey data yet. Now, following the World Inequality Lab's studies, the income inequality is very high in India, disregarding critical limitations on this estimates. Given the lack of data on income distribution, the World Inequality Lab uses the income tax data to estimate top income levels. Now, the high national income shares of the top 1% are a matter of concern. However, since 2017, the income shares of the top 1% has increased only 0.3 percentage points. A very important point which reflects the reduction in inequality. Now, to conclude this article, we must travel a long way before we can claim to be an egalitarian society. Inequality in accessing quality health and education is a serious concern. So, the story of India is not just about poverty and inequality anymore, it is more about progress and aspirations too. Now, coming to the next piece of article, that is Nistar, which is the first indigenous diving support vessel which has been commissioned into Navy. Now let's try to know more about this ship. So it is 118-meter ship which is the first of the two diving support vessels being built by Hindustan Shipyard Limited, which is being designed to undertake complex deep sea saturation diving and rescue operations, a capability select navies possess around the globe. The commissioning of INS Nistar firmly reinforces the role of the Indian Navy as the first responder and the preferred security partner in the region. Supporting the indigenous shipbuilding industry has been one of the pillars of the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. Now, at present, all of the 57 new warships in the pipeline are being constructed indigenously. The Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, has termed INS Nistar as not just a technological asset but a crucial operational enabler. Nistar will provide critical submarine rescue support to the Indian Navy as well as our regional partners. Now, this will showcase India's role as a major power with respect to naval capabilities in the Indian Ocean region. So, INS Nistar is installed with state-of-the-art diving equipment such as remotely operated vehicles, self-propelled hyperbaric lifeboat, diving compression chambers. It can undertake diving and salvage operations up to 300 meters depth. It would serve as the mothership for the deep submergence rescue vessel to rescue and evacuate persons from a dived submarine in a distress well below the surface. तो आई होप दोस्तों आपको ये न्यूज़पेपर डिस्कशन अच्छा लगा होगा और आपकी एग्जाम प्रिपरेशन में ये डेफिनेटली हेल्पफुल रहा होगा. थैंक यू फॉर लिसनिंग टू अस.